He never raised his voice. He never begged. He never complained. And yet every room he walked into, he left with exactly what he came for. His rivals called it luck, his colleagues called it charm. But the ones who studied him closest saw something else entirely. Something colder, something calculated, something most people are never taught and almost no one talks about. Welcome back. If you're new here, this channel is about Stoic philosophy, not the watered-down self-help version, the real thing. The philosophy that Roman emperors and enslaved men both used to master power, circumstance, and themselves. In this video, I'm going to show you 3 psychological principles used by people who consistently rise and why Marcus Aurelius Seneca and even modern neuroscience all agree on what those principles actually are. We'll talk about why intelligence and hard work are almost never the deciding factor. We'll expose the invisible armor these people wear. And by the end, you'll understand something about power that most people spend their entire lives missing. If you've ever watched someone less talented than you get further than you, comment yes right now, because this video is going to explain exactly why that happens. In 1970, a psychologist named Walter Mischel ran a now-famous experiment at Stanford. He placed a marshmallow in front of a 4-year-old child. The child was told, "Wait 15 minutes and you'll get 2 marshmallows. Leave now and you get 1. Most children grabbed the marshmallow immediately. A few waited. And decades later, when Mischel tracked those same children as adults, the ones who waited had higher incomes, better relationships, lower stress levels, and by almost every measure, better lives. But here's what the popular retelling always gets wrong. This wasn't a study about willpower. It was a study about emotional regulation, about the ability to manage your inner world so your outer world doesn't control you. And that distinction is everything. Think about the people you know who always seem to come out on top. They're not always the smartest people in the room. They're not always the most educated, the most experienced, or even the hardest working. But they share something, a quality that's almost impossible to name until you look at it through a Stoic lens. Epictetus, born a slave in the Roman Empire, observed this about human behavior. Most people spend their lives reacting. They react to insults, they react to setbacks, they react to other people's opinions, and in doing so they give away the only thing they ever truly own, their response. The people who always get ahead have learned something most of us haven't. They've learned that perception is a weapon, that emotional control is a superpower, and that patience, genuine, disciplined patience, is one of the most misunderstood forms of aggression that exists. But there's a darker side to this, and that's what we need to talk about. Only 6% of people ever learn to consciously control how they are perceived by others, and those 6% are not playing the same game as everyone else. The first principle is what I call the mask, and the Stoics understood it long before modern psychology gave it a name. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his private journal, a book we now call Meditations, that a man who cannot govern himself will always be governed by others. But he also understood something more subtle. How you appear to others is not vanity. It is strategy. People who consistently get ahead have mastered what psychologists call emotional surface control. On the outside, they project calm, confidence, certainty, regardless of what's happening underneath. This is not lying. This is not manipulation in the corrupt sense. This is what Seneca called the discipline of impression, the ability to choose what you allow the world to see. Seneca wrote, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." And here's why this matters. When you walk into a negotiation, an interview, or a conflict, the moment you reveal anxiety, desperation, or neediness, you have already lost ground. Not because the other person is predatory, but because human beings are wired to follow calm. We instinctively trust composure. High achievers know this. They've trained themselves to respond, never react. There's a gap, sometimes just 2 seconds, between a trigger and a response. That gap is where power lives. In Stoic philosophy, this is called the ruling faculty, the hegemonikon. It's your inner citadel. And just like a physical fortress, It can be trained, strengthened, and made nearly impenetrable. The dark side, some people use this exclusively as a tool of dominance. They wear the mask not to be better humans, but to be unreadable predators in a world of emotionally exposed people. The Stoic answer is this: wear the mask, but know why you wear it. Control your composure as a form of self-respect, not as a weapon against others, because the difference between those two intentions determines whether you're building something lasting or something that will eventually collapse under the weight of its own deception. Before we go further, I want to ask you something. Think about the most composed, unshakable person you've ever met. What made them feel different from everyone else? Drop it in the comments. I read every single one, and if this video is clicking for you, hit the like button right now. It genuinely helps this content reach more people. Remember that child with the marshmallow? The one who waited? Here's what Michel discovered decades later that almost no one reports. The waiting children weren't suppressing desire, they were redirecting attention. That is the second principle. I call it the mirror, the ability to see yourself as others see you in real time and adjust. Most people are entirely trapped inside their own head. They experience the world from inside their own emotions, their own assumptions, their own narrative. The people who get ahead have learned to step outside themselves, to observe the room, read the energy, and adapt without losing their core. Epictetus called this proseuche, self-attention, the constant disciplined practice of watching your own thoughts and behaviors from the outside, not with judgment, with curiosity. Modern psychology calls it metacognition, and research from Harvard shows that people with higher metacognitive ability make better decisions under pressure, are more persuasive in communication, and recover from failure significantly faster than those without it. Seneca wrote, "A man who does not know to what harbor he sails, no wind is favorable." People who use psychological awareness selfishly are always sailing toward a harbor they will not enjoy when they arrive. Power without virtue is a house built on sand. But here's the uncomfortable truth this video promised you. The people who get ahead, even the virtuous ones, they are using these tools consciously or not. And if you are not aware of them, you are permanently at a disadvantage. Not because the world is cruel, but because consciousness is always an advantage over unconsciousness. Awareness is always an advantage over blindness. The Stoic path is this: develop the mirror, develop the self-awareness, and then choose deliberately every day how to use what you see. Now here's the part most people get completely wrong. They think that the people at the top are just more disciplined, more focused, more driven. They're not. They understand something about time that changes everything. Remember the man from the beginning of this video, the one who walked into every room and left with exactly what he came for, the one his rivals called lucky. Here's what they never understood. He was playing a longer game than anyone around him. The third principle is the most powerful and the most misunderstood. I call it the long game, and the Stoics called it amor fati, love of fate. The radical acceptance that everything happening right now is exactly the material you need to build what you're trying to build. Most people operate on a timeline of days and weeks. They make decisions based on how they feel today. They react to today's insult, today's setback, today's fear. The people who get ahead consistently across years and decades have compressed their emotional response window and expanded their strategic time horizon simultaneously. When something goes wrong, they ask, what does this make possible? Not immediately, not reflexively, but after the first wave of emotion passes, which they let pass because they've practiced the mask, they look for the leverage hidden inside the loss. Marcus Aurelius lost children. He led Rome through plagues and wars. He dealt with betrayal from people he trusted, and every single night he sat alone and wrote about what the day had taught him. Not what it had done to him, what it had taught him. That is the dark psychology behind people who always get ahead. Not manipulation, not ruthlessness, not a willingness to step on others. It is the ability to stay in the game longer than everyone else, emotionally, strategically, philosophically. Because here's what most people never figure out. The person who can wait, who can absorb, who can convert loss into data. That person is not surviving. That person is accumulating. Every setback is a deposit. Every failure is a lesson that compounds over time like interest. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." That is not a motivational quote. That is a description of a psychological operating system, one that almost no one installs, because it requires something that feels counterintuitive, the willingness to feel pain without letting that pain make your decisions for you. The people who get ahead are not without fear. They are not without doubt. They are not without struggle. They have simply learned that none of those things have to be in charge. Here's what this video taught you. 1. Composure is not a personality trait, it is a trained skill. The mask is a choice, not a gift. 2. Self-awareness is the most underrated form of intelligence. The mirror gives you an advantage that no degree, no salary, and no title can replicate. 3. The people who always win are playing on a longer timeline than you realize. The long game isn't just strategy, it is a philosophy of time. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most powerful men who ever lived, wrote this in his private journal, for no one but himself. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. That's the entire video. In one sentence, if this made you see something differently, hit the like button. It takes 2 seconds, and it genuinely helps this channel reach people who need this content. Subscribe, because I post new Stoic content every week, and next week's video on why Stoicism predicts who wins and who breaks under pressure is going to go even deeper than this one. And tell me in the comments, which of the 3, the mask, the mirror, or the long game, do you struggle with most? I'll be reading every response. 2 videos coming up on screen. Now watch one of them next. The algorithm rewards it. So does your future self.